What do you do when your goals get blown up? What do you do when, things that you were working so diligently towards, you and your team, get derailed? How do you respond? Specifically, we're going to be digging into what do you do about goal setting now after what's happened?
Hello and welcome to the Remarkable CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to chiropractors who want to transform their job into a business so that they can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. With your hosts, Dr. Pete Camiolo and Dr. Stephen Franson.
Welcome back to another episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. I'm Dr. Pete Camiolo.
And I'm Dr. Stephen Franson.
And we're having real conversations with you, CEOs. This has been an absolutely unprecedented time that we have been journeying through, and we have been seeing remarkable resiliency, adaptability from so many of you. And I just want to speak to you right now and congratulate you on your resiliency, on your perseverance, on not stopping what you've been doing, even though you've been knocked down and pressed down, you haven't given up. And wherever you find yourself right now in this season that we are journeying through, this unprecedented time, I really hope and pray that this program, our podcast, these have been of value to you as we've walked through the Phoenix plan, and we've talked specifically through what you can be doing. Today, we're going to be digging into probably a little bit of a sore subject, a painful subject for many of you, which is what do you do when your goals get blown up? What do you do when things that you were working so diligently towards, you and your team, get derailed? And how do you respond in times like this? Specifically, we're going to be digging into what do you do about goal setting now after what's happened? And how do you navigate through this time? Dr. Stephen, I know that we have visibility into thousands of practices. And I know we're on regularly, weekly on calls with dozens and dozens of individual doctors. And, we are hearing, the stories. We're right there with so many docs. And so this is a real sensitive and real timely conversation that we're having today. And I know that for you, Doc, who is listening, this is going to really hope clarify some things about what you need to be focusing on. But also, I truly believe you're going to be inspired today as well. So this is going to be an inspiring conversation. Hopefully, you feel strengthened by the time we wrap up this episode today.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the intense interface that we have with so many chiropractors around the world just really helps us get a pulse on exactly where people are, where their businesses are, where the doctors' heads are at, where their teams are at, their patients are at, the community, et cetera. Really appreciate that perspective. Through that lens, I just want to tell you that regardless of where you are on the continuum with your practice, with your business, maybe you're on the far right-hand side of the curve where your business is off 15 to 20% and it's business as usual, but you're just a bit frustrated because you want to go and grow. Or maybe you're in the middle and you're like somewhere between 40% down or 60% down, and it's been a bit of a holy crap season for you. Or maybe you're on the far left-hand side of the curve and your practice is closed, right? So you might be padlocked. Maybe the governor said you can't be opened, or the king or the queen or whoever said, no bueno, you guys can't be open. You can't be seeing patients. Or regardless of where you are on that continuum, we want you to know that we are here for you. This message is for you, right? So this message today, and really the messages that we've been bringing in the last several weeks, if you have missed any of the podcasts, please double back and check them out, because this is real-time relevancy, right? So we want to make sure that you guys know that we are on it. We have our finger on the pulse, and, reporting back from the field, I'm going to tell you right now, what I've seen is just across the domain, across the landscape of chiropractors, home and abroad, what I've been impressed with is the optimism, right? So it's just super consistent that you guys are warriors, and that all of us as chiropractors, I think, are maybe pathologically optimistic, right? So, but there's been a great sense of, realism with that as well, right? So the people are like facing the brutal facts of where they are right now, but there's an optimism that comes with that. And I'm just so impressed by that. The persistence that I'm seeing, this is like doctors are just recognizing that it's like, this is the time. This is the time. This calls for me to be a leader. And I'm super impressed at that. It's like seeing the docs and their teams lean in to this situation, which I love. There's also a level of appreciation, right? So Doc's just recognizing we've been on this journey together, training them how to be CEOs, how to go from owner operators to CEOs. And man, we all know that there's never been a time when your business has needed you to stop acting like an owner operator and start acting like a CEO. Stop thinking like a laborer and start thinking like a leader, right? So what a blessing that we've been training like that. And of course, taking your job and turning it into a business. Man, thank heavens we've been doing the heavy lift on that the last 18 months, right? And then I'll also say that there's been a hearty response across the board, regardless of where you are on that continuum. And that is that this sucks, right? So at the end of the day, we all wish that this cup could have passed us by, right? But the reality is this sucks, and it's okay to recognize that, guys. And like our friend, Dr. Sebastian likes to say, it's like, you just need to own that for a second. Even if it's a minute, it's an hour, it's a day, just maybe don't let it be too much. And just be like, get angry, get mad, and just recognize it is what it is. Man, this sucks, right? Especially when you start talking about the topic we're going to talk about today, when we talk about goals, right? So, Dr. Pete, I mean, I know that you're like me. When I look at my strengths finder, I'm just like strategic, achiever, focus, activator. It's like everything I'm doing is like running forward. And the idea of like, man, you just in a situation like this, then this extraordinary situation, something from the outside in impacted all of us, right? And for many, we can be frustrated by the fact that we've been derailed. At the very least, our momentum and our growth derailed, right? For others, it's like, no, this has been a complete upheaval. So this conversation we're going to have today around goal setting is a place where the rubber hits the road, especially when it comes to leading your team.
Yeah, Doc. I mean, this has been such a remarkable time. And you know, that word remarkable applies even in this situation because it's extraordinary. Unfortunately, it's been extraordinary in a challenging way. But you know, we know that when we get stretched, we get stronger. And so in marketing, they talk about creating a pattern interrupt. And the value of a pattern interruption or pattern disruption is actually you get the attention of the audience. And the goal would be that once you have the attention, that there is a call to action. Okay? So the purpose of a pattern interrupt or a pattern disruption is actually to get attention, and that attention would lead to call to action. So my question for you is with this pattern interruption that you've had, that we've all had, with this pattern disruption, where is your attention right now? And what is the call to action? What is the action that you and your team are taking? In the previous episodes, we went through very specifically the 3-phase action plan. Now, we're going to move into goals. Why? Because you have to, on the other side of stabilization and mobilization, we have to be able to set goals again. We have to be able to create a new focus on what's important right now and get clear on what's important next. We just need to adapt because of the nature of what's going on in this extraordinary time. We have to adapt as CEOs, and we're going to be able to gain a new perspective, which is the last thing I want to say here, which is that perspective is so important. And it's not just perspective, it's proper perspective. And that's the key. It's having a proper perspective. And I hope that this Remarkable CEO podcast has been that for you. It has been that for me. It's been refreshing to be a part of the podcast because I believe that we're having the most important conversations. What's important now? We have data-driven meetings. Well, we have data-driven podcasts. Well, we're literally saying, here's what the data is that we're getting in the marketplace from you. And we're saying, here's the conversations that we need to be having right now. And that's what this conversation is, Doc. So I appreciate you being a part of our podcast, being a part of this community. And again, I can't emphasize enough how important it is that we continue to journey together, and we're going to continue to support you in this journey. And as we dig into this conversation today about goal setting, resetting, this applies to you. We'll be back to my conversation with Dr. Steven right after this. Now more than ever, you must be on your A game. Doc, as we move out of the dark ages of this corona catastrophe, let's ready ourselves to move into the mobilization stage and start marketing again. Are you and your team ready to be seeing a surge and influx of new patient prospects? If you're like most chiropractic practices, you may be a little out of shape when it comes to your day 1, day 2, day 3 process and procedure. We've all been focused on other things. So let us help you get back in shape so that you can bring your A game to your new patients and don't blow it for them. Remember, you can only help the ones you convert. We're going to make this easy for you and your team. The Remarkable Conversion Immersion is an intensive 2-day training on our proven new patient conversion process, and we're hosting it as a virtual live streaming event June 12th and 13th. During this virtual live training event, we will show you exactly what to do and how to do it. Discover the proven system that thousands of successful chiropractic teams have been using all around the world for years, and it's working now, today, better than ever. This is a live streaming training event, so you can train from the comfort of your home, or even better, get your team together and train from your office. No flights, hotels, or expensive meals. All the awesome TRP coaches and TRP tribe, and the best new patient conversion training available in chiropractic. You stay home with your family and sleep in your own bed. Since the COVID-19 restrictions, we have been delivering our TRP immersions as live streaming and virtual events, and the feedback has been off the charts. And when you register now, you get 66% off tickets for yourself and your team while seats last. The seminar is regularly $29.97 when you attend a live venue. It's now available for only $9.97 because it will be streaming, a live event streaming. The 2020 Remarkable Conversion Immersion, June 12th and 13th. Get your tickets now. Go to theremarkablepractice.com/conversion-immersion, or simply go to theremarkablepractice.com and click on events and go to the conversion immersion in June. Get 66% off for you and your team while tickets last. Register now for this incredible event. You can have the practice and lifestyle you dream of. Let us help you get your team on board with a simple, proven system that works. Don't try to figure this out alone. Join this group of successful chiropractors who are eager to help you in an ego-free environment and get the tools you need to accelerate your practice this year. And now, back to our conversation.
So let's get our feet firmly planted on the ground and just recognize that we know what it feels like to sit in meetings with your team and recognize, man, our goals have been blown up, right? Like, so if we're having data-driven meetings and data-driven trainings and really running a data-driven business, we got to recognize that, hey, typically our meeting has a framework to it, has a structure to it. And part of that structure is our goals, right? So it's like we have conversations around what were our goals and what were our outcomes, right? What was our production? What was our productivity relative to our goals? If you've been running your goals that way, which I mean, your meetings that way, which I certainly hope you have been, man, you can find yourself in some awkward situations right now where everybody in the room is looking at you being like, well, are those goals even relevant anymore? And we have to be so careful here because our goals can go from being motivational to being demoralizing, right? So, and, we've been there before. Dr. Pete, I know you teach from scar tissue as well, but I mean, I've been on a climb to 1,000 a week when all of a sudden you get smashed with a financial, complete destruction, like in 2008, 2009, complete collapse of the economy, right? When people are jumping out of the building in New York City, right? So it's like when you're looking at your team, you're like, okay, so everybody's talking about right now is the collapse of the economy and everybody getting laid off. Man, so how do you address that with your team, right? Or a 9/11 situation when all of a sudden everything freezes and stops and then everything changes and you go through these major, not just economic, but cultural inflection points where people, not only they don't know if they're going to have the money, they don't know where they're going to be, in 3 months, 6 months. Am I going to still have a job? Am I going to have to move, right? You go through these crazy periods in your practice and in your career where you're going to have to deal with these extraordinary situations, these existential questions that you have to go through as a business, as a leader, as a team, right? So you got to learn how to deal with these things. So let's give you a framework And by no means are we suggesting that we have an exact equation for you guys to follow. So we appreciate whatever grace you can extend us on this, honestly, because this is unprecedented, right? This is an entire global situation. It might as well have been a nuclear fallout, right? So here we are, we're looking at, okay, so we walked into 2020 with a set of goals. If you're like me, we're optimistic about the growth trajectory for the year. We had this beautiful linear trajectory, and I'm holding up a diagram right now. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you get the benefit of seeing what I'm pointing at right now. But you probably had this beautiful direct trajectory that showed growth all through Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, nice straight line growth, right? And just continuing through to 2021, right? So for all of us, we showed up, January 1st, hoping and expecting that, fully expectant. And nobody saw this extraordinary situation, this extraordinary situation that became an inflection point for all businesses, right? So the degree of inflection is going to depend from practice to practice, but almost everyone's going to see some level of dipping through Q2, maybe into Q3. But hopefully that dip is really a squat to allow you to jump into Q4 and 2021 beyond if you do Q2 and Q3 properly. Here's the key to growing your business in 2020, guys. Don't let your business shrink too much in Q2 2020. Like, I want you guys to hear us when we say that. When we go over this Phoenix plan, this phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, this is all about, number one, stabilize your business, then reactivate the people that have left, and then mobilize and get back out into your community. And each one of those is really a study in positioning yourself properly. When it comes to stabilization, position yourself with your existing team members and your existing active patients, because at the end of the day, people are going to remember what you said and how you led. Then get into stabilization in the second month of Q2. So now we're into May. This is about reactivating those people. This is about doubling back and getting those people that have dropped out of care because either there was the distraction factor or was a freak out factor because of either fear of the virus or maybe money, or maybe they were just rule following and not showing up to the practice. Well, we're going to double back and go get those people and bring them back into the flock, get them back into the raft. And then there's mobilization, which is if you've positioned yourself perfectly here, you're ready to go back out into the community as the leader that has a new message, that has a new set of strategies and tactics. It's going to be stepping out into a community that's going to be looking for a better way to better health. The best way to grow your business in 2020, don't let it shrink too much in Q2 2020.
I love this. This is such an important subject, Doc. And you said it so well that oftentimes our goals go from, we don't want it to go this way, but from being motivational to demoralizing. And I think that's a really important point, Docs, as you lead and you gather with your team and you continue to navigate through this, is that it's time to reignite some level of inspiration. And the way that we do that is we got to get back to what we know is true, right? When we have to get back to the fundamentals. And Doc, you actually mentioned it. It rolled off the tongue really quick, but those are really important things. So the first is the fundamentals of the team meetings, the team trainings, the daily huddles, the daily and weekly rhythms that you have in place for meeting with your team and organizing your team and coming together. Fundamentally, those things have to be in place. So now is the time to get back to the fundamentals. So if you haven't been doing those fundamentals, and we're going to assume and believe that you have been, but now more important than even ever before is the importance of sticking with those rhythms. And actually, we've actually seen some of our doctors actually double down and double click on those and actually be doing more of that, more meetings, more trainings. They're working on growing their business and strengthening and finding areas within their organization that they can grow and improve for the inflection point that's coming, right? And so using this time, it's really important to get back to the basics. And you talked about how, this is something that's also a global situation. So not only is this affecting your business, but it's affecting all of your clients as well, your patients and everybody in your community. And so this is where, because everybody has been through this, there's going to be an opportunity on the other side of this that's significant because everyone's been through this and everyone's going through this together. And so what we need to do as CEOs is we need to not lose sight of our macro view, but we need to readjust our micro view, right? Because we talk about there's three types of vision, right? So you have your now, you have your ultimate, and you have your next. And that's what we need to be focusing on right now. As the CEO of the organization, you have three primary objectives. Number one is casting vision. I love the quote They said, what's the most important thing that a CEO does? There's three things. Number one, cast vision. Number two, cast vision. And number three, cast vision. So now is not the time to stop casting vision. It's continuing casting vision, letting people know the 3 to 5 year ultimate vision that we had, let's say at the beginning of this year, it's still there. It's still in front of us. We're still going in this direction. That doesn't have to change. I'm not saying it hasn't changed. Maybe you have more clarity now and you've got more clarity for your 3 to 5 years. That would be great, but you have your 3 to 5 year vision. The now vision, that has changed. It has been disrupted. We talk about the Stockdale paradox. That is brutal facts. It has changed. Whether you're down 15% or 50% or you're closed, wherever you're at, the reality is this is what's going on right now. Brutal facts. Let's face the facts. The next vision, which is where are we going to be 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 12 months from now, that has also changed because historically, Doc, and we talk about this all the time, and CEOs think in terms of quarters, right? Quarters and years. And now what's important now is not to get too far ahead of ourselves because we don't necessarily know what's coming. We don't know how everything is going to shake out. So instead of thinking in terms of quarters, now we're actually planning and thinking in terms of months, right? And so this is where what's important now, what's important next, this has changed for this season. So our goals have to reflect that.
Okay, let's take a quick break and talk about Chiro Matchmakers.
Chiro Matchmakers will help you find the right person for the job. If you're looking to hire the ideal chiropractic assistant, Chiro Matchmakers will help you find the specific person missing from your team so that you can get back to using your talents to serve more people. Or if you're looking to hire the ideal associate doctor, CMM can help. Chiro Matchmakers helps chiropractors like you find the ideal associate doctor to unlock your practice potential and get you the freedom that you desire. To learn more, go to chiromatchmakers.com.
And now let's jump right back into our conversation.
Yeah, and for vision, guys, ultimately, we can say this is the business that we're building 3 to 5 years from now. And frankly, team, that hasn't changed, right? So where we're going hasn't changed. What success looks like hasn't changed. All right. So that ultimate view, that North Star that pulls your team forward is like, that's the dent we're going to make in the universe. This has not changed. Okay. So the where we're going hasn't changed. The where we are has changed. So the how we're going to go from where we are to where we're going, that I don't know. So I don't know. And I also know that we're going to figure it out, right? So it's just like, this is the time for you as a leader to show transparency, right? So to communicate with transparency and be genuine, show authenticity. You'll build trust with your team. To be able to say, listen, I don't know because no one knows. We don't know what's the next 1 month, 2 months, 3 months is going to bring. So don't fake it. Don't spin it. Don't dilute it. Just call it what it is and be like, here's what I know. Our 3 to 5 year view has not changed. That's where we're going. What has changed is how we're going to get there. Like, I don't know, but I do know that we are going to be able to figure it out, right? That's what your team needs to hear from you. Now their minds open up and they get into a creative state as opposed to a panic state, right? Or they're not calling bullshit on you because they picked up on the fact that you're just spinning it, diluting it, playing the denial game. Don't do any of that. All of that will undermine everything that comes next, okay? So I want to make sure that you do brutal facts. This is where we are right now. This is where we're going 3 to 5 years. Let's talk about where we're going next. Let's adjust that, right? It's time to reboot and reset those goals, right? Like Dr. Pete just said, I want you to go from the zoom out, which is usually when we're talking about that ultimate view, to really zooming in. So make that shift and that transition from the conversation around the macro goals where we're going in 3 to 5 years, even in 1 year where we're going. And let's get into the micro goals. So the vision might be month by month, but the goals, you got to go week by week, day by day, shift by shift. You've got to get into micro goal setting. So this is the key. If you study any of the Navy SEALs success strategies, they teach it's win or learn. You hear the expression, failure is not an option, right? So people hear that all the time. Oh, the Navy SEALs say failure is not an option. And people misinterpret that. They think that what that means is all we do is succeed because otherwise lives are lost in the missions. That's not what it means at all, right? So what they say is failure is not an option, it's guaranteed. So failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is intrinsic to success. Failure is part of success. And as soon as you start thinking that way, a boxer doesn't climb in the ring not expecting to get punched in the face. That boxer's in trouble before they even get in the ring if you think you're going to get through a fight without getting punched. So at the end of the day, we as CEOs, we have to step into the ring knowing we're going to get hit, right? So you've got to get in there and be like, okay, there it is. There's the failure. And it's win or learn. And in this situation, what a blessing. What an awesome learning opportunity. The only way to really get to know your system is to stress it, right? So I don't know about you, but our systems have certainly been stressed in the last 6 weeks, right? So we're learning more than we did in the last 6 months. So it's your perspective, like Dr. Pete said, it's just having that right perspective and looking at it and saying, okay, win or learn, what did we just learn? And adjusting our goals to reflect what we've learned. So we have our current reality, our what's going on right now, Stockdale paradox, brutal facts. We know where we want to go next. Now let's set micro goals, right? We want to have our monthly goals. We want to have our weekly goals. We want to have our daily goals. And I say goals by shift. Break it down into micro goals and get those micro wins. What your team's going to need right now is micro wins to build their confidence and build some business momentum.
Yeah, Doc, this is so powerful. I love this perspective of winning and learning. One of the things that we need to talk about here today is also the contingency plan, having a contingency plan. One of the things that we talk about with our CEOs is it's goals and actions, okay? So with these micro goals come specific action. Goals are always paired with action, okay? So it's goal and action. Goal and action, goal and action. So as we take these goals and we micro them down from into the daily shift by shift goals, it's goal and action. Okay. So as a CEO, it's extremely important that we never give a goal without an action. And if we go back to our scorecards, a scorecard is of really no value to you without the section that says action steps. Action areas, right? Without the action, you can set a KPI, you can set an objective, but without the action that drives to that, it's an aspiration and it's demoralizing. And so again, it's now time to raise up the morale of our team. Now is the time to celebrate the small wins. That's a discipline for many of us who, as Dr. Stephen, you said before, are achievers. And right now we're looking at our bank accounts, we're looking at our stat sheets, and we're looking at certain things. We're like, man, and you can't get it out of your head. You're like, oh my gosh, like this is so different than what I want. This is not who I am. Like, why is this happening? That's not helpful right now. What's helpful right now is focusing on what you do know, what you do have, taking a position of gratitude for where you are. Because things could be worse. That's always perspective, right? There's always somebody who has in a worse situation, right, than us. But here's the thing. With our team, we need to be coming in there with positivity. We need to be coming in with great support because we're all being challenged. So you need, as a leader, we toggle between challenging and supporting our people. And right now, everybody's being challenged. So now it's emphasis support. Support is the emphasis right now because we're all in a challenge. So with the goals, have to come very specific actions.
So let's talk about numbers. So, the hardest part of this is adjusting your goals, right? So we have to reboot. So in other words, reset our goals and say, okay, so our goals for March, April, May, June, right? They looked like this. And now we need to adjust them and make them look like this. And here's what I'm going to suggest you do. Hold on to your BHAGs, your big, hairy, audacious goal, that 12-month goal. But dial back your NHAGs so that you can see a line of sight between where you are now and where you're going to be at the end of the year, right? So set your expectations of teams and don't throw that trajectory away. Don't throw those numbers away. Don't throw that graphic away. Superimpose the new goals over the old ones, right? So graphically represent this, and you should be able to see, okay, so here's where we're anticipating we're going to have a reset, and then here's where we're going to have a rebound. Like predict that. right? So, and do it intelligently. Don't be random about it, right? So this is going to vary from region to region, state to state, country to country. So look at your calendar and say, okay, so this is where we are right now. This is where we are in the peak of the distraction. And this is what we're expecting as far as the long tail on that distraction. And these are the actions that we're planning to take to create the rebound. This is not reactive. This is proactive. We are going to mobilize starting in June. We expect a resurgence in this practice June, July, August, and right back up in September, October, because you know what? We're stronger than we were before this happened. We've learned new skill sets. We have got new technology that we're using and leveraging that we didn't have before. We have a new position in our marketplace because we've done such a terrific job positioning ourselves in social media. I have tripled the number of followers that I have in my Facebook private group, right? So I have stepped into the gap, in the information gap left by the media and by the government and by the modern medical world. I have helped people see that there is a better way to better health. I have stepped into that void where no one was talking about promotion of health. Everyone was talking about treatment of disease. Everyone was talking about prevention of disease. No one was talking about promotion of health. I have successfully changed the conversation from it's about the strength of the virus to it's about the strength of the host. I am now the authority. I am now the expert. And I am fully expected that all of those energies and effort, leveraging that technology and building on the trust that I had with my active patient base, regaining momentum with my reactivation efforts, I know that when I step outside of the practice with my team at my back, we are going to light this on fire. We know that we have great steam coming in, and it's going to manifest, and it's going to show up into our vital signs. It's going to show up on our scorecard. It's going to show up on our scoreboard, and it's absolutely going to show up in your goals. So Doc, your question is, as the CEO, what are you doing right now to make sure that that's what your Q3, Q4, and Q1 2021 is going to look like for you? Doc, it's going to come down to your perspective. Where are you right now? Are you facing the brutal facts? Are you shooting straight and transparently with your team? Are you speaking from a place of inspiration and not desperation, and giving them hope and tactics and strategies, investing in your team, training your team, and positioning you for the jump that's going to follow the squat of Q2?
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, direct message us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Now go and be remarkable.